a privilege to carry everything to God in prayer. Oh, what peace we often forfeit. Oh, what needless pain we bear. All because we do not carry everything to God in prayer. Are we weak and heavy laden, cumbered with the load of care? Precious Savior, thou art refuge. Take it to the Lord in prayer. Can we find a friend so faithful, who will all our burdens bear? Jesus knows our every weakness. Take it to the Lord in prayer. Jesus knows our every weakness. Take it to the Lord in prayer. The blood shall never lose its power. Let's see. The blood that Jesus shed for me, it reaches back to Calvary. The blood that gives me strength from day to day shall never lose its power, for it reaches to the highest mountains, and it flows to the lowest valleys. Oh, the blood that gives me strength from day to day shall never lose its power. It soothes my doubts and calms my fear, and it dries all my tears. The blood that gives me strength from day to day shall never lose its power, for it reaches to the highest mountains, and it flows to the lowest valleys. Oh, the blood that gives me strength shall never lose its power, shall never lose its power.
Okay, you guys sound good. I think that might be up amongst my favorite songs. Come to me if you haven't yet. Everybody can take their seats now. I do want to say greetings to everybody that's in here and everybody that's out there on the internet. Those in faith that will be listening to DVDs and CDs out on the frontier. Welcome. This is the Children of the Free Ministry Church. My name is Charles Garcia. I'm the teaching pastor. Some of you old-timers know me as Buddy Garcia. We gather live every Sunday evening here at 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And as I often repeat, you catch the archives on our site, childrenofthefree.com, on Facebook, on YouTube, on Pinterest, and we may have some other archives available, at least by audio CD from Ustream and our own personal archives. I do want to start out by saying to the devil and his cohorts, we're still here, you SOBs. Now, any new timers, we're not cussing. Although God cussed, it's called cursing. That's very spiritual. That's what Satan and his cohorts, the bad guys, are called, sons of Belial, so SOBs. The attacks intensify, all the way from attacks on and through key staff. If you notice any changes on stage before I started, that's because we are cross-training everyone so that anyone can be replaced by another to step in the gap, so that we can't be crippled or held hostage by key staff to protect us and to protect them as being prime targets. And as I said before, let me back up a bit. I just mentioned something. When we say step in the gap if one goes down, you've seen any old Civil War movies or war movies in battle where they're carrying the colors out front. Their guide and their inspiration and what they stand for, and the one that's carrying it drops, immediately somebody else picks up the flag. That's what we're talking about, stepping in the gap. The attacks intensify. May I, Mayava, tell them? Mayava, our daughter, is our rhythm guitarist, plays uke as well, is our songwriter and lyricist. She wrote, amongst other songs that carry our teaching in it, like I'll Trust in Thee, that everybody likes so much, was gravely ill just this past Tuesday and went through a horrible ordeal. I mean, she wound up seeing 4 medical providers, wound up in the emergency room after nonstop abdominal pain and vomiting, frankly, every 10 or 15 minutes, nonstop for 12 hours. She received every known anti-nauseant by shot and IV and IV fluids. They found nothing except a possible urinary tract infection, which doesn't cause the type, the severity, or length or lack of response of symptoms that she went through. She's here tonight. A week before, my wife Lehua, who is our minister of music, severe, unexplained, lower abdominal pain, consulted with 2 medical providers, fears of cancer and bowel obstruction. All the tests came out normal. No explanation. Fully recovered. She's here tonight. Those are some examples, and other examples of other kinds of attacks. Other kinds of attacks. It was pointed out to me that I became sick too violently during the week, but it comes with the territory. Other kinds of attacks were going on. Our son, Moana, who plays lead guitar and bass and other instruments, he runs our Ohana River Ranch, where the parsonage and chapel are located. We have livestock here. Not a lot. We have some livestock. And we just went through our seasonal kidding. And I don't mean we were teasing each other or playing around. We had baby goats. Prime, our best new little billy goat, little male goat, active, spry, cavorting, probably could jump 5 feet in the air, dead. No cause, just died. Our daughter Malia, who plays cello and bass and keyboards and sings. These are other kinds of attacks going on simultaneously. Friend she grew up with committed suicide. Same day Maeva was in the emergency room. And I don't mean to leave anybody out. I know everybody has attacks. But the attacks have varied. They've struck all around inside the ministry and out on the periphery of the ministry. Out, I'm getting word from the congregation. They're dealing with broken limbs, estate tax nightmares, finances, relationships, and what all. To the attacker and the attackers, I say again, we're still here, you SOBs. Yeah. And to the congregation, I say, it's part of the trip of the life of God's chosen ones. David, in the Old Testament, who became king of Israel and came to be called a man after God's own heart, stood up for God and his armies and killed Goliath. He said, "Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that dare defy the armies of the living God?" Then basically said, "Let me have him." And he told Goliath what he was going to do. He was going to kill him. He was going to take his head off with his own sword. And when he charged into the fray, he said, "In the name of the Lord I come against thee." And he did it. Now, those of you who are taking notes, you can jot down 1 Samuel 17. That's where you'll find that. The great victory after an attack by the Philistines and Goliath. Slap bang in the very next chapter, 1 Samuel 18. They think that David is the greatest thing since sliced bread. They can't do enough for him. He gets to marry the king's daughter. He gets rewarded. Right slap bang in the very next chapter, 1 Samuel 19. Saul loses his mind and says, "Go kill David." I want you to go there with me so you can see this. And I want you to notice the attack, or the kind of cycle here. Attack, victory, reward. Attack, victory, reward. Attacks are part of the trip. 1 Samuel 19. We're going there just so that you can see this. With your own eyes. Actually, towards the end of the 18th chapter, 29th verse, it says, "And Saul was yet the more afraid of David, and Saul became David's enemy continually." That's the king, and that's their hero. "Then the princes of the Philistines went forth, and it came to pass, after they went forth, that David behaved himself more wisely than all the servants of Saul, so that his name was much set by, high esteem." And then here comes chapter 19. "And Saul spake to Jonathan," remember that's his son that went in to see the Philistines last week, I think we were teaching. "Saul spake to Jonathan his son, and all his servants, that they should kill David." Boom, just like that. Without any warning, without so much as a by your leave, all of a sudden, David gets attacked again. Now, the particular story is not the issue tonight. The issue is showing this cycle of attacks. Victory, reward, attack, victory, reward. Attacks are part of the trip. While we're in the Old Testament, I want you to go to the book of Isaiah. Isaiah 50. We're going to talk about those who, first of all, we talked about somebody who's a man after God's own heart, attacks. Now we're going to talk about those who fear the Lord and obey his servant. In other words, they're doing things right, the way God wants it done. They respect God and they listen to his domata, his gift minister. Chapter 50, we're going to go to verse 10 in Isaiah. It says, "Who is among you that feareth the Lord, that obeyeth the voice of his servant?" Translated into what's being conveyed here, they're talking about having a healthy respect for the Lord, for God, and listening to the voice of his servant, his gifted ministers. And without even the slightest by your leave, bang, it says, "that walketh in darkness, and hath no light." Again, part of the trip. Attacks are part of the trip. Darknesses are part of the trip. This lesson teaches you to trust in the name of the Lord, and you call on God's name for the particular darkness or problem that you're in. Darkness, part of the trip. Now, so far, I want you to notice it's not that anybody has done anything wrong or against God or done anything to bring this on themselves. It's part of the trip. Attacks, victory, reward, attack, victory, reward. And now in this one, those who fear the Lord and obey the voice of his servant, boom, that walketh in darkness and hath no light. Telling you also that God will test you. It's part of the trip. Now, David, like I said, was a man after God's own heart. Attacks. Those who fear and respect God, listen to their God-given pastor, darkness. And now we're going to go to our goal and sink home the message and talk to those that are blessed, man and woman alike. Go with me to Psalm 84. Psalm 84 was written by David at another time in his life where he was in fear of his life. His evil son Absalom was trying to chase him down and kill him. So he was fleeing from Absalom when he wrote this psalm. We're going to just start out reading in the first couple of verses, and then we're going to bear down. How amiable are thy tabernacles, O Lord of hosts. That name of God, Lord of hosts, means that's the big God. That's the one that's in charge of everything. Peoples, places, nations, heathen, weather, animals, inanimate objects, everything. How amiable are thy tabernacles, O Lord of hosts! My soul longeth, yea, even fainteth, for the courts of the Lord. My heart and my flesh crieth out for the living God. Yea, the sparrow hath found a house, and the swallow a nest for herself, where she may lay her young, even thine altars. O Lord of hosts, my King and my God. Blessed are they that dwell in thy house. They will still be praising thee. Selah. Selah is a Hebrew word that means pause and think on that, or think of that. And then we're going to bear down. 5th verse. It says, blessed is the man. Let's pause on that word blessed, because they are talking about a state of being. A state of being that never wavers, no quality of which ever changes. Blessed is the man or woman, I point out here, whose strength is in thee. And strength is translating another Hebrew word that pronounced sounds like Uzi. Yes, like the Israeli machine gun. Spelt differently, it's O-U-Z-E or O-Z-I, whatever. They changed the vowels in that language. Pronounced Uzi. And that strength means divine, God-given strength, might, boldness. Blessed is the man or woman whose strength is in thee. Remember, they're talking to the Lord of hosts. And those that are blessed, the quality of which never changes, never wavers, whose strength is in God, it says, whose heart, or in whose heart, are the ways. And then here come the mistranslators. It says, of them. That doesn't even make sense. Well, that's not what's being said there. It's in italics. It's being added by the translators. Line that out. That's not what it's saying. It's saying, in whose heart are the ways of thee, the Lord of hosts. It's important to point that out because to God that means a lot. He said, and I've taught you this before in the Old Testament, he said the people only came to know my ways, talking about this parting of the Red Sea. We talked about that last week, I think. The pillar of cloud, the pillar of fire. And then he said, lamenting, only Moses came to know my ways. So these people are blessed, or at least partially blessed, because they know God's ways. They know why he does things and why he doesn't do other things. That's the way he is. So again, repeating, blessed is a man or woman whose strength, Uzi, is in thee, in whose heart are the ways of thee. And then again, slap bang, without so much as a by your leave, it says, who passing through the valley of Baca. It doesn't say who might pass through the valley of Baca, who possibly is passing through the valley of Baca. First of all, Baca means weeping. Again, it's part of the trip. But it's saying, if you encapsulate what I said so far, talking about blessed men and women, it's saying blessed men and women go through. And you need to concentrate on that word, through valleys of weeping. It's part of the trip. Though, by the way, the literal translation of that, in whose heart are the ways of thee, should read, in the heart of them are the ways of thee. And by the way, like I said before, we need to reiterate here, nothing is said in this psalm or any of these passages about cause. It's nothing that you did or didn't do, because the devil will go crazy with that, making you think you're out of God's will, or you shouldn't have done thus and so, or you should have done thus and so. So you're either being punished for it, or you're being caused to be there by not doing something. No cause. Part of the trip. There's no guilt because of that fact either. Passing through the valley of Baca. These people that are blessed, that are in God's strength, that have His ways in their heart, pass through the valley of Baca, and it says, make it a well. The literal translation is, they make it a place of springs. It doesn't sound so much like a valley of weeping already, does it? Why? How? They make it a place of springs by acts of faith, that the onlooking world and your fellow fathers and the people in the heavenlies and the eons, the eternal beings, are all looking on. Those people make the wells a place of springs, or the valley, a place of springs. And if that isn't enough, it goes on to say, the rain also filleth the pools. Put a line through that word, filleth. It should really say, covereth. So going through this valley of weeping, by acts of faith, you make it a place of springs, and the pools that are there already are covered with water. This is conveying abundance. Seventh verse, it says, they. I want you to circle that. Simple little noun, but heavy with meaning. They, who? Those that are blessed in the state of blessing that never changes, that have that strength of God, in whose heart are the ways of God. They go from strength to strength. Remember Uzi and strength? Now we're changed to a different word. We changed to a word, Ka'il. And Ka'il means strength plus. God's strength and might and valor and all that, plus, added on top of all that, all that's needed, strength plus strength. The strength of armies, the strength of equipment, the strength of ammunition, weapons, tools, riches, valor on top of valor, everything that you need. That's what Ka'il means. And he's saying those that have that strength of God, the ways of God in their heart, they, in the valley of weeping and in their faith walk, go from Ka'il to Ka'il. Every one of them again, them, we're talking about they, them, in Zion appeareth before God. It's talking about those that go through. And who is it that goes through? The fathers, the blessed ones, the ones with the strength and the ways of God. Those ones that go through are going to make it. They're going to make it all the way. They're going to make it to heaven. Old timers will see something familiar here anyway. The ones that go through, that's what he's talking about and who he's talking to. Again, repeating, "O Lord of hosts, the God that's in charge of everything, hear my prayer. Give ear." And that's kind of a colloquial, however you say it, colloquial term there. They're saying, flatten your ear. It's like, put your ear up against it or against me. It says, hear my prayer. Give ear. Flatten your ear, O God of Jacob. Selah. Again, think of that. But something that you need to think of that they're not really pointing out here. It's my duty to do that. It says, O God of Jacob. So what? What's the significance? Jacob, when he was born, was named Jacob, which means heel catcher or heel grabber, because Esau was going to be born first, and Jacob grabbed onto his heel and tried to switch places with him. And in life, he was a conniver. He caused Esau to sell his birthright to him for a bowl of soup. That's what Jacob means, a heel catcher and conniver. So what? Later on, he saw an angel of the Lord and asked the angel of the Lord to bless him, and wrestled with the angel of the Lord and wouldn't let go, and kept wrestling with the angel of the Lord all night until the angel of the Lord finally blessed him. But he also did some karate on him. He did some moves on Jacob, and Jacob walked with a limp ever after. And after that incident, God changed his name to Israel, which means a prince who has power with God. So what? He's saying, God of Jacob. That's saying he takes you where you are. Not when you've attained or when you've arrived. I've been sanctified. No, no. When you are still a sinner, which you still are, when you were at your worst, he takes you where you are. That's what that means. Oh God of Jacob, Selah. Think of that. Think on that. Pause and think on that. Behold, O God, our shield. And he is our shield. Nothing gets by that. Nothing gets by that shield unless he lets it get by that shield. And at times he does. To test you, to prove you, and I think even to show you off to the denizens of eternity. Look what he's going to do, because he knows what you're going to do. Our shield, and look upon the face of thine anointed. Anointed to deliver, it's really translating Mashiach, which is the Messiah, the deliverer. It says, look upon the face of the anointed to deliver, Mashiach. For a day in thy courts is better than 1,000. I had rather be a doorkeeper in the house of my God than to dwell in the tents of wickedness. For the Lord God is a sun and a shield. Repeating that again. The Lord will give grace and glory. Doesn't say it there. I'm saying it parenthetically. To them. And then there's a promise here we often claim. This is where it comes from. No good thing will he withhold from them, that says, that walk uprightly. Now in the Old Testament, walking uprightly was trying to obey the law. After Christ came and faith came, walking uprightly means trusting God and acting in faith. And when you do that, he views you as upright, righteous, justified. So the way we say it ourselves is, no good thing will he withhold from them that trust him, them that act in faith. And to drive that home, it's repeated here and said plainly in the 12th verse, O Lord of hosts, God that's in charge of everything, blessed is the man that trusteth in thee. And the word that's being translated trust here is batak, one of the 3 Hebrew words that's translated as trust. And this word means to lean on a staff and put your full weight on it, trusting that it's not going to break and dump you on the ground or splinter into your hand. Attacks are part of the trip. Darknesses, part of the trip. Valleys of weeping, part of the trip. All of those. But, repeating verse 12, O Lord of hosts, blessed is the man that trusteth in thee. And we say here again to Satan, we're still here, you SOBs. That's my message. And it's offering time. Take my double glasses off. The song for the offertory, The Lighthouse. Don't give unless you've been taught. If you have been taught in the Word, you share materially with the one that taught you in all good things.
There's a lighthouse on a hillside that overlooks life's sea.
And when I'm tossed, it sends out a light that I might see. And the light that shines in darkness now will safely lead me home. If it wasn't for that old lighthouse, this ship would sail no more. And I thank God for the lighthouse. I owe my life to Him. Jesus is the lighthouse, and from the rocks of sin, He has shown a light around me that I might clearly see. If it wasn't for the lighthouse, where would this ship be? Everyone that lives around me says, tear that old lighthouse down. You know the big ships, they don't pass this way anymore. Ain't no use in it standing around. But my mind goes back to that stormy night when just in time I saw the light. It was the light from that old lighthouse that stands upon the hill. And I thank God for the lighthouse. I owe my life to Him. Jesus is the lighthouse, and from the rocks of sin, He has shown a light around me that I might clearly see. If it wasn't for the lighthouse, where would this ship be? And I thank God for the lighthouse. I owe my life to Him. Jesus is the lighthouse, and from the rocks of sin, He has shown a light around me that I might clearly see. If it wasn't for the lighthouse, where would this ship be? If it wasn't for the lighthouse, where would this ship be?
Sorry about that. So, those out there that are getting the shillelagh knocked out of them, take heart. You probably are chosen. You probably are a man or woman after God's own heart. You're probably one that fears God and obeys His servant. You're probably a blessed man or woman with your strength in God and his ways in your heart. Keep on walking in faith. Get your messages into me.
Well, I
Searched and I searched for a road that led to glory. I wondered if I'd ever find my way. I was so dismayed, for the road it seemed so lonely. But then I heard a voice within me say, you've got to keep on walking, keep right on walking, walking in the light of the Lord. You'll get to heaven someday, can only get in the faith